And the question to ask yourself is, if I had rested another minute or two, could I have gotten another rep? And if the answer is yes, then you got to weigh the pros and cons. Geonosius asks, what do you do for rest periods between sets? I know I've seen a variety of answers from 1 to 6 minutes. A lot of it depends on what's your training modality. How much time do you have? Is it crowded in the gym? What are your goals? All that kind of stuff. So let's take two extremes, because I think using extreme examples is one of the best ways to just illustrate a point. If you work out at a powerlifting gym or you're working out at home, you have all the time in the world, and you're going for a powerlifting routine to where you're trying to lift heavy and go for progressive tension overload. We're really trying to like build muscle or strength. More volume is better, and if you rest longer, you will get more volume in. Now, there is an upper limit. Like if you're resting so long that you're cooling off and your muscles start to cramp after you start doing your next set, okay, that's a problem. That's resting too long. For me personally, I started to hit those limits around 10 or 20 minute rest periods due to stuff going on Twitch. You know, like if I was on front page or something, it was super, super busy. My priority at those times is not lifting. My priority is talking to chat. But anyway, so generally speaking, most people don't rest longer than 10 minutes. So if you keep it 10 minutes or less, and you're still getting in the same number of sets and you're not wasting time, like you're able to multitask or whatever, you don't mind, longer is better. Again, with the exception of don't go so long that you're cooling off and you're cramping, or that you're losing your benefits from warming up. Like for example, if you were, let's say for warming up, you were doing some foam rolling and you felt a little bit looser and you felt ready to go, you felt a bit more mobilized, but then you kind of lost that because you're resting so long. Okay, that's another caveat too. But generally speaking, longer rest periods equals more volume equals more progressive overload, okay? But on the flip side, let's say you're at a busy gym, you don't want to spend all day at the gym, you don't be hogging equipment, and you don't care that much about strength and hypertrophy. You just care about, you want to get in a good workout, you want to build some muscle, whatever you can, you want to get your heart rate up, do a little bit of cardio. Shorter rest periods makes more sense for that. So like, for example, if you're going to a typical gym, you want to do some like lighter weights, higher rep stuff, and you want to do basically like more circuit style training for isolation movements. They're less compound, they're more isolation, so that they're gonna be easy to recover from. You can have shorter rest periods, like 30 seconds to a minute. Whereas if you're doing heavier compound stuff, you tend to need more time to recover from that and just like, because it takes a lot out of you. Now, of course, if you do cardio on a regular basis, like you go out for jogs regularly, you might be better adapted to just quickly bounce back from a heavy set. But another rule of thumb is rest long enough such that you can do the next set with all, like you can hit all the reps you want to hit, meaning you don't miss reps because you are too tired. And the question to ask yourself is, if I had rested another minute or two, could I have gotten another rep? And if the answer is yes, then you got to weigh the pros and cons. Like, okay, should I rest longer? If I do rest longer, do I have time for that? Am I hogging equipment? Those are things to kind of consider for this. So what's a practical rule of thumb? I think depending on your style of training, what I usually do is I will prioritize longer rest periods for my first few sets of the day, which usually are my heaviest sets. I put my heavy hard work first in the day because that's when I'm freshest and I care the most about trying to hit certain numbers. So I'll rest long, you know, like even if I weren't streaming, I would be resting like probably 5+ minutes for those sets. Then as the workout progresses, I tend to go to lighter stuff, more isolation stuff. And then I have, I don't feel as taxed and I can just rest shorter periods. So Geonosius, I hope that helps. Feel free to ask any follow-ups, but that's it in a nutshell about rest periods between sets. There's a lot of caveats, and it really depends on what you're trying to do, but those are some rules of thumb. Make sure you're able to hit all the reps you wanted to hit, and make sure you're balancing also time in the gym and you know, being polite to other people who might want the equipment. Another thing to think about too is if you are a normal person, you are constrained to just a single 1-hour workout at the gym. If you rest shorter periods of time, you might be able to actually generate more volume. That is, you're able to do more exercises in that 1 hour. So take, for example, let's just go to the extreme. Like you're doing 10-minute rests between sets. In 1 hour, you could get like 6 sets in, right? 6 sets, that's not a lot of volume. Versus if you rested just a minute or two, between sets, you may not be able to go as heavy, but you could probably get in more total working sets, which might be more total volume in the big picture. It depends. Like, okay, well, how heavy were those sets? Were they junk volume or not? And so again, there's a lot of nuance to this, but you get the idea. Like, these are things to consider and think about what it is you care about. All right, Genos, just hope that helps. Shorter rest periods between sets equals more weight loss. I don't know if that's a serious question, but generally speaking, yes, you're going to burn more calories if you're doing more total work in an hour. Keep in mind though that it's not like you're going to be, it's not like you're burning a ton of calories anyway during weightlifting. Yes, you burn some, you don't burn a lot. Okay, so to keep following up from the previous question, junk volume. What I mean by junk volume is like, let's just say I did, I'm doing shoulders. Okay. I did shoulders and I did already like 12 sets of shoulders that I burned out with some supersets at the end. Supersets meaning, or like drop sets, where basically like I'm doing side raises and I was doing like 20 pounds and then I did 10 pounds. Like as I'm fatiguing on the 20 pounds side raises, then I drop the weight to 10 pounds. I do as many reps as I can. As that starts to fatigue, I drop that immediately and I do like 5 pounds and I keep, those are drop sets. After a drop set, most people are just fucking spent. It is very difficult to keep going in terms of doing more and more volume. And so if I were to do additional sets, I would probably be so burnt out on my side raises that I could probably just do 5 pounds. If I did 8 pounds, I might like my form would probably be so crappy because my muscles are just taxed. And then at that point, that's one way to define junk volume. It's so crappy form, or it's so low on weight and intensity that's not really challenging the muscle. You're already spent. Any volume you throw at it is kind of pointless. You should save it for another day. So that's what can happen if you're just kind of burning through stuff. So for example, like HIIT cardio circuit style training, I would consider that to be kind of junk volume towards training and trying to achieve hypertrophy or strength. You're going to plateau very fast on like strength and hypertrophy from HIIT cardio. You'll build some muscle and strength from HIIT cardio if you're doing it in a way where like you're doing like circuit style training. But because you're resting such short amounts of time and you're taxing those muscles for so long, it's more like you're doing here, let me undo, because this is I'm putting this question back up because it's all still part of the same question as I was talking about earlier. It's all one long continuous question. You're resting so short that you're failing the sets because of cardio limitations, not because cardio and metabolic adaptations where your muscles are just fatiguing from being tired, as opposed to they're fatiguing from the weight being too heavy. Similar but different. Anyway, what's the threshold for junk volume? Doesn't that depend on the intensity you're lifting? 75% of 1RM is my average lifted intensity. Yeah, so it depends on who you're asking, but generally speaking, if the volume is less than 60% of your 1RM, it's considered junk. So you can pull up some calculators for this. Let me pull up an infographic. And let's look at this one. So a simple infographic of percent of your 1RM and how many reps you're doing. So 60% of your 1RM is like 20 reps. And when you start to do more reps than 20, it's becoming smaller and smaller of an intensity percent of your 1RM. And it becomes more and more endurance. Obviously, this is a gray scale. This is not like a black and white thing. Like the moment you do 21, like the moment you do, instead of 14 reps, you do 15 reps, and then all you did was junk. No, it's not that. It's not that black and white. So it's a rule of thumb. So generally speaking, I try to keep all the sets to be 20 reps or less. Usually I try to aim for most of my sets to be like 5 to 12-ish reps, somewhere around there. It's not a hard and fast rule, but I try to keep it around there because it's going to be intense enough to fit within that 60% of your 1RM or higher or heavier range for the stimulus. So again, if you're getting so fatigued from really short rest periods and you're doing so much volume in an hour to the point where your muscles are already taxed, you have to drop the weight, even though, okay, forget about the number of reps. Think about percent 1RM of when you're fresh. So going with the example of side raises, let's just say, for example, I could do 5x5 side raises at 20 pounds. Okay. You know, side raises are pretty hard. So let's say I can do 5x5 at 20 pounds. So 5 reps. So 20 pounds is like my 87%, maybe 85% of my 1RM. Okay. So that's side raises. Now I'm having to drop it to like 5 pounds because I'm so fatigued, and I'm so damn fatigued from everything. And so I cannot do anything close to that. So what would that be? So I have a 1RM calculator, ! tracking, and you can see my tracking sheet. And I have a 1RM calculator on here. If you want to use the same tracking sheet, track your volume stuff, go to the Twitch channel, type ! tracking. You can copy this exact same Google Doc or Google Sheet, and you can copy it over. It tracks volume. It's pretty nice. Anyway, 5 reps at 20 pounds. So this calculates, this is an example 1RM calculator. So unfortunately it stops at 12 reps. It doesn't actually go to 20. You can find other 1RM calculators online, but basically like I'm at 5 pounds, I'm probably going to be below the 20%, the 60% of your 1RM. So we're entering the range of junk volume, and junk volume, I think is a bro term. I don't think it's actually clearly defined. So if it is, awesome, let me know. But otherwise, as far as I know, it's kind of like a bro science term, meaning it's not like, I don't think actual studies have been done on, you know, doing drop sets into junk volume territory. So the point is, your sets should be challenging. You should try to keep them like at 60% of your 1RM or heavier, and pay attention to your form, because a lot of times when we're so fatigued from very short rest periods, we're doing tons of volume in a single hour, our form starts to go to crap and we don't even realize it. Anyway, so Racktron says, is that the same as cheat reps? How do you define, Racktron, can you define cheat reps for me? I have my definition in my head, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. All right, Adaman, sounds good. See you later. Have a good one. Geonosia says, that does help. I'm trying to figure out a game plan for when the gym opens back up and I can actually move to lifting heavier instead of working on shoulder stability. Yeah, sounds good. So when I think cheat reps, I think about using momentum. And Racktron says, using poor body mechanics when exhausted to get 2 or 3 more reps to finish a set. Okay, yeah. So my opinion on this is, I think there is a place and time for poor body mechanics or using momentum to try and get in some more volume or reps. However, what you do, your execution should match what you expected. That is, if you thought you were going to do, let's say, 10 reps of side raises. We're talking about side raises, right? So like, let's just keep to that example. If you were doing 10 reps of side raises, and you expected to be able to execute all 10 reps with good form, and you're very stable, then I hope all 10 reps look exactly like you expected. However, if you're lying to yourself, like, yeah, man, I had good 10 reps, but if you record yourself and it's more like, okay, rep 8, rep 9, like in 10, and you're starting to recruit other muscles, you're changing the angle, then you're kind of cheating yourself, and that better be intentional. Like, as in you planned for it, where you were planning to do 10 good reps, and then you felt like, fuck it, this is the last set of the day, let me just squeeze out a couple more reps. If you want to do something like that because you planned for it, go ahead. If you're doing a style of lifting that uses some momentum and you're okay with that, and that's the style of training you want to do, absolutely go for it. Like barbell rows, for example, is a lot of different variations for how strict your form is, for what angle you're using. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter as long as you're executing the way you expected it to, which is, if you're planning on using no momentum, then in your head, you're thinking you're using momentum. If you record yourself, then you better be using no momentum. You know what I mean? Otherwise, lower the weight, swallow your pride, and do a lighter controlled weight. Similarly, if you want to do, like, if you know you're going to do a set of reps, you're going to cheat kind of on it and use some momentum, that's fine. You can still progress with that. There's a time and place for that. Just don't lie to yourself that you're doing good form and you're not using momentum when you actually are. Bob Ross says, I still think there's some good endurance benefits from mixing lifts in below 50% 1RM and below. Sure. I don't disagree with that. I consider that to be basically cardio, right? Like, I mean, there's a time and place for cardio. Absolutely. It's just, if you're going to use that to try and generate more volume for the purpose of strength and hypertrophy, I would absolutely not put that first in your workout. I'd put that towards the end, and I would not treat those sets that seriously towards your volume, towards weightlifting. It's a very gray kind of nebulous area in terms of who you're talking to and what lens we're looking at it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. If you want to throw it in, just don't do it at the beginning of your workout. You don't want to start your workout taxing the muscles and going to failure in the first few sets. I'll give you a quick example. There's this one guy who he's stuck on his bench press. He's a young, skinny guy. His bench press was like 135 pounds, 5x5. And so, based on his body weight, he should be able to do more. So, and he was plateauing on that. So I was asking him, like, okay, what's going on? Like, tell me about your workout. Tell me about your volume, your workout routine. And so his trainer had him doing, hear me out, set 1, he would do bench press, like 8 reps, 135 or something like that. And then second set was like 6 reps, third set 4 reps. And he was so fatigued in each one, he couldn't do more. And I asked him, like, okay, can you tell me more about the sets? He would do a set of 8 bench press, 8 reps, and then he would immediately stop and then go into doing push-ups, a superset of push-ups. Set 1 for bench press, supersetted with push-ups. Like, if you guys don't know what that's gonna do, you're gonna be so damn tired after your first set because you're basically maxing out on your bench press, followed by maxing out on push-ups. Your muscles will be so fatigued and taxed, the rest of your exercises for the day are going to be approaching junk volume. And no wonder, exactly, Praise Jesus, no wonder. That was what was going on with him. He had that issue where he was basically losing out on all this volume because he was too tired. If you like the content, comment and subscribe on YouTube. Also, follow us on Twitch and leave the notifications on. Feed your brain, feed your body, and see you next time.